Welcome to another Lunchtime Live. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to say a few quick hellos to those that jump in on the call, if anyone does. If not, we're going to carry on, and we're going to do a quick meditation this morning before getting started. So, thank you if you're just now joining me. Hello, CB and Carrie Lynn and Trish. I'm glad you could join me today. We're going to have another Lunchtime Live full of more talk about consciousness and what it is and what it's not. And we may talk today about urges that we are given from that voice in our head. Hello, Mel and Trish, and there's a name that's kind of blurring out. Pellegrino is on the end. Smoozy, of course, is here. Thank you so much for joining me. So let's take a first maybe 2 or 3 minutes. Hello, Smoozy. And hello, Mel. And just start to come out of the space that we normally live in with our mind. Hello, Wendy. And start to come into a space of more conscious awareness of what we really are. So let's practice that now just for a few minutes. Okay, so we're going to start by the ringing of the bell. And if you want to close your eyes, you can. And we're just going to center ourselves. And notice where we are. Let's just take notice of where we are internally. Notice what's going on in your internal world, in that internal dialogue. JSG and Judy. Notice what has been going through your mind. What has been the weather today in your mental field? What has it been talking about? Has it been mild in its activity? Has that ego voice been really hyperactive, really worked up? And what energy? What energy is emotional energy do you feel kind of running behind the scenes inside your body? And now I want you to imagine, we've just taken a look in the internal world. I want you to imagine that you are stepping outside of that, almost like you're stepping out of your own body. Imagine that you can even see it like a suit of clothes, and you're just taking off that. Thank you, JSG. You're just taking off that suit of clothes that you've been wearing. All the feelings that's there, all the thoughts that's there, all the problems that are being created. And you're just unzipping it, and you're just stepping out of it. And I want you to notice what's left. Just feel into that. As you look at that clump of thoughts, feelings, emotions, there on the ground in front of you, all the problems that it's been talking about, that it convinces you of, that are so real and so important and such a big deal, so life or death, so urgent, must be taken care of now. It's all there in front of you, and you stand witnessing that. You stand there looking at that, not judging it, not trying to find words to describe it. Lovey has joined us. You know how she has to join for the first few minutes. Come on. And then she goes away. Come on. Notice what you are and how that feels to just be standing there, witnessing all that stuff that was going on inside of you. And then I want you to use that same awareness that you're looking and imagining that clump on the ground in front of you that you just took off, that persona, that personal me that you've been wearing around. And now I want you to look around the room that you're in. Yeah, I know. Look around your, thank you, Wendy. Look around your outer world now. We just looked at your inner world. And we just stepped outside of that. And now I want you to look outside of you. Wake up to outside of you. And be with that space. So right now, I am outside of you as a part of you, but in a different form. And you're sitting here with me. And you could turn back around and look inside and look at that clump of thoughts and emotions and worries and problems. Or you could just be right here, right now, with me and Lovey and the chair you're sitting in, or the desk you're sitting at. And just be. Breathe in and out with whatever is sitting in front of you. And if you're just joining us, we're practicing getting to know what we are and seeing the difference of how that feels between what we normally walk around every day in that unconscious personal me with all of its dramas and stories and problems and so much language and content and thinking and thinking and thinking and talking inside the head and arguing and fussing and complaining and whining and needing and wanting and having to have this and having to have that. And I like this, but I don't like that all day, every day. You've just stepped out of that and you're just a consciousness. You're not wearing any of that. None of that exists. You unzipped it and you stepped out of it, and here you are with looking at the suit I'm wearing. And you're looking at the suit that Lovey's wearing, the form she decided, her consciousness decided to experience life through as a cat. It's just life energy, and that's what you are. Thank you, Carrie Lynn. So we're just sitting here together being. Now notice the emotional state. If you're not listening to that thing internally, and you've turned and you've looked into your outer physical world, and you're being here with me, what do you notice? What do you notice about your emotional state? Not much, right? It's pretty uneventful. It's pretty quiet. It's pretty still. It's a nice place to be, isn't it? And here in this space, do you notice there isn't the push and pull of the other space? You're just kind of being, just kind of floating. But when you're in that other place, in that internal world, and it possessed by that ego voice, do you notice the constant pull or push, urge? I want this. I'm grasping. I'm grabbing. I'm clinging. I'm needing. There's a yearning inside, a pull from within in that world with the ego voice, or the drama king or drama queen, whatever you want to call it. And there's also an urgency, like a pressure. It's all driven by this push and this pull. And what is underneath that? What is underneath that push and that pull, that gravity that you feel when you're there on that planet with that ego voice in your head? At the core of that planet, that have-to-have planet that the ego voice lives on and that wants you to live on that planet with it, it's fear. It's fear. Full of it. And you store fears and pains here. And those things will come up in your daily life. We call them triggers. Something will remind you of that. And then you'll feel the pull and the push, or the urge. The urge from that fear, that ego voice saying, do something. Protect. It's a fragile planet, that have-to-have planet. It's fragile there. And what I'm trying to talk to you about and teach you about is how to stop living consumed by that push and pull, that pain that causes us to act and react and behave in ways that after we've done it, we just feel like, oh, I wish I hadn't have done that. But in that moment, even though we can see in hindsight, maybe that wasn't so great, we didn't have a choice because that thing had control of our actions, reactions, and behaviors. And that's what happens there when you are consumed and you're sucked into that gravity, the gravitational pull of that fear planet that the ego or drama queen or king lives on and wants you to live on with it. And then you start to see this, and you start to unzip this suit you've been wearing, and the belief that this is what I am, or this is who I am, and this is just how I am, and this is what I need, and this is what I want, and this is how life is supposed to be for me. That's a misconception too about life. That life is supposed to serve us. That we're here for life to serve us and give us everything that we want out of it. Says the ego. And if it's not how I wanted it to be, if it's not going how I say it's supposed to go, then that's wrong and that's a problem, because it's only looking at this little bitty picture of the personal me, not the big reality that there are so many more moving parts than just this little thing and it getting what it wants all the time out of life. It always wants out of life. It's always wanting something out of every experience. It will want something out of your relationships with other people. It always wants them to make it feel a certain way. And when it doesn't make it feel a certain way, then it gets angry at them. And then they become a problem. They're not making me feel the way I'm supposed to feel. I have to have this. This is what I've decided in my mind on this planet of me that I live on, this have to have it planet. This is how it has to be. And when it is not that way, then there's a problem. And I make up a bunch of, this ego voice makes up a bunch of problems about what I don't have and what they should be doing. And it points at everything else so that you never see the core truth of the issue. That's because you live with this thing that has this idea that it is all about it. And it getting what it wants, when it wants it, how it wants it. And life is here to serve me. It does it in relationships. It does it in work. It does it in, it's all about me and my life. And there's not a, when you start to come to understand that there's not a my life, there's a the life. And we are part of that life that is flowing. And it is flowing through us. And it is witnessing itself through us. And we're here to allow that witness, to witness experiences. But the voice in the head says, no, that's not what it is. It's about me and me getting what I want and me having what I want and it being how I want it to be. I should be happy. And this is a thing that can't be happy. Its nature is to have these fleeting moments of happiness. If all the conditions, it's a very conditional world where what you are lives on a place of the unconditional. This thing says if all the conditions are exactly how I say they should be and how I want them to be, then I will be happy. Which is, to get it all how it wants it to be, it just doesn't stay that way for very long because life is flowing and life is moving and something's going to fall apart or something's going to change or something's going to look differently than it did and it may not like how it looks. So it's an impossible ask. But it thinks that this is what's supposed to happen. And so when you believe it and you accept this as your truth, you suffer a lot. And then those around you suffer a lot with you, especially in relationships. So what do you hear inside your head? What is the ego voice? That voice that sounds like you. You think that it is you. It's talking. What is it saying to you? I would love to hear from some of you and some of the things that you maybe have questions about. or maybe as we're discussing this and we talk a whole lot about this planet over here. We talk a lot about the ego voice and the world that we live in with that thing and how it behaves and how it acts. But we don't discuss a whole lot about consciousness and how to get grounded in it and what that field looks like. Well, we know that it's this world, this is condition based off of, all the conditions for this personal me that we think we are must be as it wants it to be. Over here in the fear about money and health of family members. Yes, Wendy. We can definitely get into those types of fears and feel that urgency of, oh my gosh, I better do something because I don't want a certain thing to happen. So let me put a pin in that and I'll finish this thought and then I'll go back to that. The unconditional world, what is that like over here? when you're walking through life, instead of hearing this voice that's constantly talking about everything in the terms of, I like this, but I don't like this. This is good, this is bad. It's also the world of duality. We just be, and we allow things to be. We be with all things, and we allow all things to be. We allow it to be what it is. There's a lot of acceptance here. There's a lot of accepting things as they are. There's not judgment here. And I know that's it's like, wow, can you imagine a space where you interact with another person and you can tell they're not judging you in their head? Can you imagine how that feels? To walk up to a person and all you feel from that person is complete acceptance, even awe or wonder, even at looking at basically themselves in another form. Looking at pure consciousness as it's having an experience through you. And maybe you're having a big experience. And maybe you're caught up with the voice in your head and the ego. It has you under its grasp. And they're witnessing you have an emotional reaction. But they're just sitting there almost like they're watching a movie or a show. They know it's not real. They know that's not you. They know that that's the thing that we all live with, that we can all hear, and that just in that moment, you're just possessed by that thing. Have you ever ran into anybody like that? Have you ever met anybody like that? Where they just, you don't see what you normally see. You don't experience, you experience something different, and maybe you're so possessed by that mind that, it confuses you. And it creates this space where you're like, wow, that's a different human. That's a different individual. But they're just unconditional. They live in this space of unconditional love, where most of us have lived all of our whole entire life on this planet of, hi Mary, Sun, Ocean, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I push and pull and fear and urgency, and it's all so overwhelming and so important in me and my life, and my life has to go a certain way, and they all live there in a lot of panic, and some of them are getting what they want and some of them are not. And the ones who are getting what they want have to keep getting what they want, and so they have to keep doing all these things. And then those who don't get what they want, they have another story going all about pity and poor me, and then they hate the ones that are getting what they want. So it's a bunch of people, some getting what they want, some not getting what they want, never getting what they want. And then some sometimes get what they want. So that's them. And they're just in this play. They're just in this drama all the time. And when it's going good for them, you might catch a glimpse of them feeling happiness. And when it's not going good for them, you might catch a glimpse of them, or a lot of them. Most of the time that's what we encounter. A lot of them not feeling good at all. Being upset and anxious and fearful. So when you talk about money and you talk about, your family and other people who are out there having their experience. Yes, the people in this world possessed by the mind will manipulate because they have to get what they want. That's the game. That's the game of the ego voice in the head. Getting what I want, because that's what life is supposed to be, right? Me getting what I want. And that's the lie that we all bought. Yeah, Lovey agrees. That's the lie that we all bought. Yeah, oh okay, this is about me and this life, and it's not. It's about experiencing whatever is life is bringing up, so that we can experience ourselves through that thing. Like, oh, isn't that interesting? Oh, wow, that was quite the experience. Or that was this, or that was that. It's not about. So when you look at money, and you look at worrying about family members, and the mind talking to you about all of that and trying to keep you, that gravitational pull it's pulling you in about money fears. Been there. Trust me. Been there. And as you start your consciousness practice, you begin to care less about a lot of things. A lot of things that the mind says were so important. How to put up boundaries with people manipulating. I'll get to that one too. That's a good question. Thank you for that. I can't say that, but thank you for that question. I'll just say D. D5. Forgot what I was talking about, so I'm just going to see here. Money. So that can create a lot of fear dialogue in the head. But as you become more conscious, and you're stepping into another world, and it takes a while because there's such a gravitational pull on this planet of have to have. When you start, I don't care about that anymore. I don't care about that anymore. It stops. It can't use fear. Its gravity is fear to pull you back onto it, because you actually are disconnecting. It becomes irrelevant to your experience as you start to surrender to life and stop trying to make life about you and everybody in service to you, making your ego feel a certain way. When it stops becoming about you and that ego feeling a certain way. Thank you so much, Wendy. When it stops becoming about that, you're just like, that's irrelevant to me, to what I am. I'm not concerned with that. And so it can talk and talk and talk, and you're just like, I don't want to live there anymore. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Oh, well, you're not going to be able to pay your bills, and then you're going to have to downsize, or you're going to have to not have this, or not have this status of wealth, or maybe you've already let go of all that too, and then it'll say, well, you won't be able to eat, or you won't be able to, and really those are empty threats, because if you're in America, and I can't speak for everyone, but where I live, there's all types of assistance. Actually, sometimes I think they're better off than when you're, well, I'm not going to get into that. But there's assistance. So a lot of the times the fears this thing is telling you about how far it can go down. You're going to starve to death. Well, probably not in America. Well, I can't say that, because there are some places, yes, I'm sure you can. Where I live, I'll just speak for that. I'll speak for where I live. There's assistance. Every 2 miles we have churches. So we're in the Bible Belt, so there's that. And there's also government assistance. Anyway, my point is that these are empty threats, and you stop allowing those threats of the ego voice and the things that is causing you to fear get to you, to push you into action, because that's what it's wanting to do. If it can push you into action with what it is saying, with this panic, this discomfort that it is causing in your body, if it can push you into action, then guess where you go live? Here, with it. And now you're tied to this place. So to start to separate, use that. Use the fear it's bringing up about money. Use the fear it's bringing up about family. use that fear to grow in your strength and power in your consciousness. How do you do that? That fear, every time it starts talking to you, and you know it, you know that feeling, that panic feeling that it starts creating. You're like, oh gosh, oh, this is so uncomfortable, I have to do something about it. And it will tell you exactly what to do. It'll give you ideas, and they're never really good ideas, but it says, no, you got to do this, and you got to do this now, and you better go get this job and that job and that job, and you better. And so you're listening to all that. And here's the secret to reclaiming your power, moving off of this fear planet and living in the unconditional love conscious place where you can be such a light to those around you to also come off of this place, come away from this place that is very destructive. And it's entertaining. It's dramatic. It's never boring. But there's a lot of suffering there. And you don't have to live there. You can if you want to. But if you start waking up to it, you'll be like, I don't want to be controlled by this ego voice in my head, stirring up my emotions all the time, controlling my every action and my every behavior, my every reaction, and I'm saying things to people I don't mean, and I'm hurting them, and I'm acting from this place of pain, and it's hurting other people, and I don't want to be that. So you start to wake up to that. Here's the secret and the key to switch that from it having control over your actions and behaviors, freeing yourself from that, to you holding it in your hands. A choice of what I'm going to do and say in this moment. So it's scaring you, and the stronger the fear, the stronger the pain, the stronger the urge to act or do something, the better. Because there is inside that urge that you're feeling, that discomfort you're feeling in your body to act or do something, or that panic feeling. Inside of it, if you could open it up, is energy. It's energy that this ego thing, has stored as pain and fear. And it's holding on to it. And lucky you, some situation in life has brought that to the surface. So it was hiding it from you, because I'm going to hold on to this, because if I hold more energy, then I hold more power over this consciousness and how it behaves and what it does and what it says. I have the power to possess this thing. But something in life, thank you, life, for bringing this up. Thank you, life, for triggering this fragile ego that is trying to control you. Life will trigger it by, your job just went away. It looks really bad to the ego. And so the ego will bring up this pain. And that's what you're feeling in your body. And if you can be conscious and be like, ha ha ha, thank you for bringing that up, because instead of panicking with you, here's the switch. Here's how you switch the power. If you panic with it, you're like, oh my God, yes, this is bad. This is so bad. Was it supposed to go this way? My life is not supposed to go this way. It should be so different. And and there's resistance, and there's fear, and there's panic. If you do that, it gets to hold this fear, and it stores more, because you're offering even more energy to this thing about this topic. And then when it dies down, it'll take it and it'll hide it away. But if in that moment, and if you're feeling that now, good. Good. This is a major opportunity for you to grow stronger consciously, so you can control your actions and behaviors, so you don't live in this place anymore. You don't live in this where it can just trigger suffering anytime it wants. So something in life comes along that doesn't go the way this fragile little ego says it is supposed to go, the thing that you hear in your head. And it freaks out, and it can't help but bring it to the surface, the pain and the fear that it's been hiding from you as energy. The energy that belongs to you, your consciousness, but it has it. It's holding on to it. And it says, you better do something. You better do something. And if you can catch yourself in that moment, and you can put it out in front of you and say, that thing that is not me is freaking out. That must mean it is holding energy and power in its hand. And it's trying to scare me into action so that it can control. It knows it's still in power of me and controls me, but as uncomfortable as it feels, as painful as it feels, as scary as it feels, as panicky as it feels, I'm not going to move. I'm going to connect to my stillness. I'm just going to look at it. I'm going to be the silent observer. I'm going to look at this thing as it's freaking out. And I'm just going to sit here and look at it. And as you do that, all that power and energy comes back to you. And then the pain that you feel, the uncomfortable feeling, don't be afraid of discomfort, emotional discomfort. Don't fear it. That's what it wants. It wants you to freak out too. It's okay. It won't last long. There it is. It's panic. It's fear. Oh my God, do something. Oh, this isn't right. You got to fix this. I'm just going to watch. I'm just going to watch. And as you do, it opens, and all that energy, thank you, Kate, all that energy comes back to you. That power to have a choice of what to do and when to do it. And then you get to move off of this world and on into a new world of choosing, of a conscious choice, not driven by fear, not driven by emotion, and then your actions and behaviors become aligned with life. Now you're just flowing with life. You're not fighting against what life is doing. Life is on your side. Life is trying to help you accomplish this. Even when things, especially when things that look bad, that this thing, this fragile little ego that wants to be in charge says, oh, this is bad. This is real bad. You can be like, good. Because I know when anything, according to you, bad happens, guess what you're going to bring up to me right in front of my face? You're going to bring me the energy that you stole from me, from my consciousness. You're going to bring that back up to the surface. I don't even have to go look for it. Life made you pull it up. And the ego's reaction to, oh, this isn't how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be different than this. Here comes that pain. Oh, thanks. I'll take that. And I'm going to stay calm. And I'm just going to watch this. That I could use so many different examples. This applies to relationships. This applies to food. This applies to so many different topics. And I'm actually doing a 30-day countdown, and we're on day 9. But we're talking about this urge now. And we're talking about this pain that's coming up in front of your face and how this can put you into the power of choice when you notice these urges around food. It goes with relationships too. Like one of my biggest ones that I had a ton of stored fear around was my partner, husband, whatever you would call it, getting mad at me. Or whoever I was dating. This has been going on forever, probably since I was little. I don't know, but fear, like the belief of my fragile little ego was, okay, everybody should love me and always be happy with me. That's what it says. This is how it's supposed to be. Everybody should love me and always be happy with me. Nobody should be mad at me ever about anything ever. And so that was there, okay. And so when someone, especially in the relationship, would become, even just, I thought maybe they had a tone, or they said something kind of different, or they seemed kind of distant, or they seemed kind of, any sign, any little thing, my fragile little ego would freak out. and bring that stored pain up. And in the past, before I grew strong enough consciously to stay calm when it would happen in the past, I'd feel that panic running in my body because I still held on to that belief that they all had to love me. Everybody had to be okay with me to be safe. It would, the panic, it would feel horrible. It would feel so horrible. We'll talk to them or text them or call them, and it had all kinds of actions and behaviors it wanted me to do. It was telling me, fix this, fix this, fix this. I'm scared, fix this. And this fragile little thing was freaking out. And I have learned, and it happened just this morning, and I have learned, don't act. Sit still, be still. Now, this doesn't mean never do anything, but I'm talking about in this moment. In this moment, be very still. You can even imagine yourself in the eye of the hurricane, and there's a hurricane going on around you. You don't want in that. If you can stay in the eye of it, if you can stay in stillness, if you can stay calm, and you can just watch this thing, if you can stay in the understanding that this is it freaking out, not you, and it's freaking out because it's stored a bunch of pain around this thing, and if you can stay calm, it's going to release all that energy, and that energy is going to be transmuted from pain and fear to love. Energy cannot be destroyed, only transformed. It can only change, it changes forms, it can't be destroyed. So it's been holding on to it as pain inside of you. And then, something happens that it doesn't like that threatens it. And here up comes the pain. And this is your chance. This is your chance to transform that to love by staying calm. I'm okay. If they're unhappy with me, let them be unhappy with me. That's the experience they're having through that form. I'm okay. What I am doesn't care about that anyway. What I am could care less. What I am can't be added to or taken away from. I'm the same always. Can't be destroyed. I'm just here witnessing this stuff. Let them be. That's a drama. And it'd be, yeah, but they're gonna be upset, and let them be upset. Now, I'm not saying act and behave any way you want to behave and don't care if you hurt some, no, that's not what it's about. You want to be conscious of where other people are in their journey and cause no harm. You want to be conscious of where they are, and if you know that they've got a lot of stored pain and that's a trigger for them, you want to be careful and conscious of your actions, not to provoke that if you can. You're not. That's not your responsibility to keep somebody from being provoked, as long as you're, upholding your own values and how you want to interact in an unconditionally loving way in the world. That's another conversation for another time. I don't know what time it is. Does anybody know? Let me see. 12:43. It's going long, but let me try to touch on this manipulation thing that we had a question about. How to protect yourself from manipulation. The best protection is to stand in that space of unconditional love. Be fixers and keep everything calm. Yep. So if you feel that you are engaging with a manipulative person is going to be someone who's possessed by the ego voice. Someone who is conscious and living in the space of unconditional love where there is no judgment and they're just being and having an experience and experiencing you, they're not going to be manipulating you, okay? So you're dealing with someone that's not them, but they're possessed by fear and pain. And that's why they're manipulating, because they're still in that world of it has to be this way. I have to get what I want when I want it. That's what this is all about. And so I have to do whatever it takes to protect this fragile little ego. I have to. It tells me I have to. And I'm so in the clasp of this thing that I just I can't even, I have no choice in my behaviors because this thing is possessing me. I don't have the power to have choice. Choice takes power. Choice not to do what this thing is urging you to do, especially if it's a really strong urge, even if you know that it's not okay. If this thing is freaking out and urging you to do stuff and say stuff to other people, you're going to do it. You'll regret it, but it's really hard to not let that thing speak out through your tongue. Use your tongue and speak through you and do all kinds of things through you. You're not strong enough to prevent it. It just, out it comes. And you've done said it and you've done it and you're like, ah. Once the emotion dies down and once that urge is gone, it's like, yeah, I'm going to have some apologizing to do later. But if you have a manipulative person and you know that they're living in this space and they're in a lot of pain, see that. And hold yourself in this unconditional love. You're not judging them. You're aware because you've been there yourself. Maybe not to that degree. A highly manipulative person is in a stronger degree of fear. We're all at some degree having fear in our bodies, and they hide it really well. A manipulative person will hide that fear. They don't want you to see it or take it away. They don't want to admit that. So they look like overly confident. They look like they'll hide it, but there's deep fear in there, and the deeper the fear, the more the manipulation. And if you can just have that understanding and know that when you are around them and they're using their attempts to manipulate you, it's the same as what you deal with on the inside of your head. Because your ego voice is also trying to manipulate you into action, to tell you scary stories, to trick you, and to say you should, this is what's happening, and it uses all kinds of mind games on you, just like a manipulative person on the outside of you. So just like you would treat that, and you would just stand there, stay calm, be the witness, silently observe it, don't judge it. Don't offer judgment. If you pour judgment on that person in that moment, if you allow the ego voice in your head, even if you're refraining it and it's thinking really negative things about them, that energy is going to them and holding them in that behavior. You may not think it, but the thoughts in your head have a lot of power. They are energy in of themselves. And if it's directed at that person, when they're in that manipulative behavior and the ego voice in your head is judging them, guess what they get to continue to do in your presence? They continue to be manipulative. It holds them in that behavior. However, if you can sit there and maybe you purposefully think loving thoughts about them and you hold unconditional love. I love you anyway. I know that's not you. And you don't have to say this out loud. You can just be there with them. I know that's not them. That's not the consciousness. That's not what they are. That's a role they're playing. And they're really playing it up. They think they're really buying into this role. They think that's them, like wholeheartedly. They don't know. They don't know what they're doing. They have no idea that they're not that. So they're in a lot of fear. A ton of fear. And then you can have compassion for that. And then that compassion comes out and it kind of stuns them. Because they know how other people normally react to their manipulation tactics and the things they say and do. They're provoking. They know how normal people react to that, and then they get all worked up, and then they have a reaction, which is what a provoker wants. and you're just with them, just kind of maybe not even saying anything, just witnessing the show, just watching the show, knowing it's not real, it's not them. It creates this space with them, kind of like a, well, this is different. What is this? What's happening here? And it kind of wakes them up a little bit, maybe not much, but just a little bit. And I've talked about this before, then that little seed is planted in there, and then it can start to grow, that consciousness that will snap them out of this fear that they're in and bring them back to unconditional love, bring them back to consciousness and awareness. So protecting yourself, like, that's usually what the ego says, because the ego needs protection. Oh, I need boundaries. This ego is going to destroy, this other ego is going to destroy me. Yeah, it probably will. It probably will diminish it quite a bit. And that's okay. You kind of want this ego to be diminished. That doesn't mean you do everything that other ego is telling you to do, just like you don't do everything your ego is telling you to do. You practice your staying calm and not acting, not allowing that fear to push you into action. Yes, it is a powerful action. It's easier to sit here and talk about than it actually is to apply and to do. But that's what we're doing here. That's what we're learning here is how to grow stronger in consciousness, in this awareness of what we are and what's going on here, instead of lost in the fear and in the drama of the personal me and the hurting each other and hurting ourselves and living a life of confusion and pain and suffering. I'm done. I'm done. I think you get to this point and you realize, to step out of this world once and for all, you really do have to drop a lot of things that you thought were so important and that was so important to your ego and that so mattered and you so cared about, and it becomes so painful to hold on to that and engage with that it's just like, okay, life, never mind. Thank you for slamming me with every experience possible so that I would drop it and stop and come back home to what I am. I hope this has helped. I know this is long. Thank you if you stuck with me to the end. We are having meditations on Monday nights. You're welcome to join. You can go, I'll post a link here on Instagram, and you can also find that on Facebook when I post it. So, load off my bag. Form 2. Oh, thank you. Yes, and we are still having, it's day 9 of the 30-day countdown, and we're talking about, the power of choice. Thank you, JG. So I hope you can join us next Monday night. What we're doing, thank you, Mel, is going to this place. We're visiting this place, and I'm taking you there through a guided meditation, this place of unconditional love, to reconnect to what you really are, to hold you there for as long as I can, and then you'll probably snap back out into the pull, the gravity of the ego world, and that's okay. But the more you can visit this place, you'll get to know what it feels like, and then you'll be able to slowly drop all those things that's keeping you attached to this place of pain and suffering. It is at, Wendy, thank you for that question. It is Monday nights, 6 p.m. Central, 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. So I hope that you can join us, and I'll post the link here on Instagram and on Facebook to join us. It's on Zoom. So I hope to see you next Monday night, and I will see you next Friday for another Lunchtime Live. Thanks, everybody.